Hello students, welcome back. So today you're learning a lesson written by Amitav Ghosh, and the lesson name is The Town by the Sea. Now this story is about a natural calamity. We all know there are plenty of natural calamities that are happening all around the world. So in this we are going to deal with one type of natural calamity, and let's see what the writer has said. On December 25th, 2004, the director was in Port Blair. He was on his way to New Delhi. Since he was traveling for official reasons, he had left his family in Malacca. He spent the night in Haddo Circuit House, which stands close to the water. On the morning of 26th, he was woken by the shaking of his bed. He found the floor heaving and started running out of the building. Then his mobile phone rang. He saw that his wife was calling from Malacca, Car Nicobar. He cut off the call and decided to phone back later. On December 25th of 2004, the director was in Port Blair. Now where is this Port Blair? Port Blair is the capital city of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. It is a union territory of India in the Bay of Bengal. He was on his way to New Delhi. Since he was traveling for some official reasons, he had left his family in a place called Malacca. Now where is this Malacca? It is a village in the Nicobar district of Andaman and Nicobar Islands. That night he spent in the Haddo Circuit House, which stands close to the water. Now what is this Haddo Circuit House? It is also in Port Blair. It is a guest house for government employees. So the next morning, that is of the 26th December morning, when he woke up, he found that the bed was shaking and he found that the floor was heaving, and he started running out of that building to save his life. Then his mobile phone started ringing and he saw that it was his wife who was calling from Malacca, the village where he had left his family, which is in Car Nicobar. He cut the call and he thought that he would call them back later. When the ground was still, he hit the call button, but there was no answer and he wondered if the network was down. Then he observed a strange phenomenon. The water in the harbour had begun to rise very rapidly and the anchored ships seemed to be swirling. He ran to the higher ground with others. Then it occurred to the director that Nicobar Islands are low-lying islands, and some like Car Nicobar Islands stand no more than a few meters above the sea level at their highest point. This made him anxious. Now when the earthquake stopped, he hit the call button. He called his wife, but there was no answer. She was not picking up, and he thought maybe the network was down. Then he observed a strange phenomenon. What is a phenomenon? An event, a situation. And what was that? The water in the harbour had begun to rise very rapidly, and all the anchored ships, they were swirling. What is swirling? Moving in a twisting or spiraling pattern. He ran to the higher ground because the water level was rising up. Then it occurred to the director, he thought that Nicobar Islands are low-lying islands, and some islands in the Nicobar, such like Car Nicobar Islands, they stand no more than a few meters above the sea level at their highest point. That is, they are very low-lying islands. And this made him very anxious. He was very bothered. He was tensed. The director knew that a government office in Car Nicobar had satellite phone. He dialed the number again and again. When he got through, he received the news that Malacca had been badly hit and there were some survivors. But as for his family, there was no news. The director kept calling, and in the afternoon he learned that his 13-year-old son had been found clinging to the rafters of a church. He spoke to his son directly later that night and learnt that the family had been in the bedroom when the earthquake started. A terrifying sound from the direction of the sea had driven them into the drawing room, but the boy had kept running. When the wave hit, the house dissolved into splinters and the boy was carried away as if on a wind. Flailing his arms, he managed to take hold of something that seemed to be fixed to the earth. Through wave after wave, he managed to keep his grip. When the water receded, he saw that he was holding on to the only upright structure. So the director now knew that there was a government office in Karnataka which had satellite phone. What is a satellite phone? Satellite phone is a type of mobile phone that connects to other phones or the telephone network by radio link through the satellites that are orbiting around the earth. So he started dialing the number again and again, and finally when he got through, he received the news that Malakka, the village in Karnataka where his family was there, it was badly hit and there were very few survivors, and for his family there was no news. Nobody knew about their whereabouts. Now the director kept calling, and in the afternoon he received a news saying that his 13-year-old son had been found. And where was he found? In what condition? He was clinging to the rafters of a church. Clinging, he was holding on to the rafters. What is a rafter? Rafter is one of the large sloping beams that hold up a roof. So he was holding on to that. He spoke to his son directly later that night and he found out what had happened. When the earthquake started, they had been in the bedroom. There was a very horrible sound, a very terrifying, scary sound from the direction of the sea that made them run towards the drawing room. But this boy started running. He kept running away from them. When the tsunami came, the wave hit, the house had dissolved into splinters, shattered, break into tiny pieces. There was nothing there. Everything was broken. And this boy, he was carried away along with the wave and flailing his arms. What is flailing? Waving, swinging his arms. He managed to take hold of something that seemed to be fixed to the earth at that time, and that was nothing but the rafter of a church. And wave after wave, he managed to hold that grip. Once the water came down to its level, he saw that he was holding on to the only structure that was there, and everything else around him had been destroyed. And your mother and sister? The director had asked. Baba, they just disappeared. And now for the first time, the boy began to cry. The director's heart broke because he knew his son was crying because he thought he would be scolded and blamed for what had happened. With the intervention of the local administration and the officers on the air base, he was able to get on a flight the very next day. He spent the day searching through the rubble and found many possessions, but no trace of his daughter or wife. He came back to Port Blair with his son the same evening. Now the director was speaking to his son and he asked him a question. He asked, "What about your mother and sister? Where are they?" And for the first time, this boy started to cry and he said, "Baba, they just disappeared. I didn't find them anywhere." Now, listening to this, the director's heart broke. He knew that his son was crying because he thought that he would be scolded or blamed for what had happened. He thought that the father might scold him for not looking after his mother, sister. The boy was scared. Now, with the intervention of the local administration and the officers on the airbase, this director, he was able to get on a flight the very next day so that he could meet his son and find his family. The very next day he reached and he started searching through the rubble. Rubble is nothing but broken pieces of wood. and he found many possessions. He found many things that belonged to him, but there was no trace of his daughter or wife. He could not find them, and he came back to Port Blair, to the capital city of Andaman, with his son the very same evening. When he went to Car Nicobar for the second time, I too went with him. The road wound through a dense tropical jungle. It was clear that the island's interior was sparsely inhabited, with the population being concentrated along the seafront. I saw, to my surprise, that many thick strands of coconut palms were still standing, even on the edge of the water. As for the forest, the canopy seemed almost undisturbed. All trace of habitation, on the other hand, had been obliterated. It was evident that the tsunami had been peculiarly selective in the manner of its destruction. It had caused maximum possible damage to life and property and had left nature largely unharmed. Now, when he went to Car Nicobar for the second time, I too went with him. Now, who is this I? Amitav Ghosh. So, he too went with him. Now, the road was through a dense tropical jungle. It was clear that this island's interior was sparsely inhabited. It was an island where nobody lived. It was inhabited, and the population that lived in that island was concentrated only along the seafront, near the sea, and not interior. And to his surprise, to the author's surprise, he saw that many thick strands of coconut palms were still standing. They had not been destroyed. And even the forest, the canopy, it also seemed undisturbed. The nature was unharmed, but the maximum damage was done to the life and property. We came to the district library. It was unharmed like the surrounding offices. There was a medical camp. The director spotted a doctor and inquired him about his family. The doctor said, "No news has reached me. I have not heard anything." We continued on our way. The director hurried to a spot where there was a mound of household objects and showed me his aristocrat suitcase, a steel trunk, a cabinet, records of his office, and slides. He took his slides. We continued, and after seeing the glimpse of the seafront, the director came to the point where his house had once stood. He said, "This was my house. Only the foundation was concrete. The rest was wood. My wife used to teach English in a school here, but she wanted to leave. I applied many times, but the transfer never came. There was so much she could have achieved. I was never able to give her the opportunity." Now, these people came to the district library and they found that it was unharmed like the surrounding offices, and there was a medical camp. So this director, he saw a doctor over there and he started inquiring him, asking him about his family. The doctor said that he did not receive any news. He doesn't know anything about his family. Then they continued on their way. The director, he hurried to a spot. He ran to a spot where there was lots of household objects, and he started showing some things to the author too. And what was that? His aristocrat suitcase, a steel trunk, a cabinet, records of his office, and slides. So he took his slides. Then they continued again. They moved forward and they saw the glimpse of the seafront, and they came to a point where once his house had stood. He stood at that point and he said, "This was my house," and only the foundation was concrete. The rest of the house was built in wood. And he said, "My wife," the director's wife, "used to teach English in a school over there itself, and she wanted to leave. He had applied many times, but the transfer never came. And he thought about his wife and he said that she could have achieved so much in her life, but I never gave her that opportunity. I was not able to give her." When I reached out to touch his arm, he shook my hand brusquely away. He did not want sympathy from others. He showed his daughter Vincetta's paint box but did not pick it up. When I asked him why he did not pick it up, he said, "What good will it do? What will it give back? As a husband, a father, a human being." It was impossible for me not to wonder. What would I have done? What would I have felt? What would I have chosen to keep off the past? The truth is that nobody can know. It is an expression of the innermost sovereignty of the self because nothing now remains to cloud its vision. In the manner of his choosing, there was not a particle of hesitation or the faintest glimmer of doubt. Perhaps he must have found some comfort in the knowledge of an impersonal effort. Looking at this, the author thought that this person is very sad right now, the director. So he tried to touch his arm just to give assurance. But the director shook his hand brusquely away. What do you mean by brusquely? Quickly and rather very impolitely. He did not want sympathy from anyone. Then he showed his daughter Vincetta her paint box, but he did not pick it up. Now the author asked him, "Why didn't you pick it up?" So the director says, "Why should I? What good will it do? What will it give me back? Will I get my family back? No, it will just give him pain thinking about his daughter, about his wife." Now, as a husband, a father, a human being, the author started thinking it was impossible for him to think, to wonder what would he had done during that situation, what would he had felt, and what would he had chosen to keep off the past. What would he do in that situation? Anyone can think about it. The truth is that nobody can know. No one can know how we will react to a situation unless that situation is faced by us. It is an expression of the innermost sovereignty of the self, the complete freedom and power to act. It is inside us, how we react to a situation. Because nothing remains clear during that time. We are totally disturbed during those situations and we don't know how we will react to any situation, any problem. And in the manner of his choosing, there was no doubt. The director's actions was justifiable. We couldn't think of how we would react to that situation, and he was handling it very well. He was calm, he was composed. So the author cannot put into words how he felt about the director's actions. And he said maybe the director must have found some comfort in the knowledge of an impersonal effort. He was very strong-willed. Sometimes words seem futile, and at these moments it seems nothing is of value other than to act and intervene in the course of events. Even thinking, reflecting, and writing about it seem trivial and wasteful. And after the day had passed, I understood that in the manner of choosing, the director had mounted the most singular, the most powerful defense of it that I would ever witness. It is true because sometimes words seem futile. What do you mean futile? Useless. And during these moments, during these situations, it seems nothing. All we can do is value other people's actions and try to intervene in the course of events, try to help them. Even thinking, reflecting, and writing about it seems silly, wasteful. And after that day, the author, Amitav Ghosh, he understood that in the manner of choosing, the director had the most singular, the most powerful defense that he had ever witnessed. He just praises the director's actions, the way the director had handled the situation. I hope you don't have any doubt in this lesson. In case you have any doubts, you can comment below. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos. Thank you and have a good day.